Alright, so we're going to go ahead and install our Pro Billet distributor here. And what I like to do is have the motor set to top dead center, so you can see it down there. Right here, this is 0, so I have it set to top dead center on firing on cylinder number 1. And what I'm going to do is install the distributor so the rotor is pointing at the number 1 spark plug position in the cap. Now, how I determine this is on the cap. There's plug wires, obviously, and where that plug wire is for cylinder number 1, I made a mark here on my distributor, and that's where I want my rotor to end up. Now, when you slide your distributor in, these teeth will actually cause it to rotate clockwise, I believe. So I made a mark over here about the distance it'll take when this gear meshes down here. So I'm going to set it to this point, which is where cylinder number 5 would actually be. And I want to drop my distributor in so my vacuum advance canister here doesn't get in the way of anything. So I like to kind of point it out at this direction if I can help it. So we're going to go ahead and get it dropped down in here. Alright. So you can see here, got a little bit of a problem with this fuel line. So if we can get it under it, set this one tooth back, and sometimes these there we go, they tend to be a little tricky with your oil pump drive, so you kind of got to finagle. But you can see I got it dropped in here, and I have plenty of room to rotate my distributor around. So, and you can also line it up like this. So this would be on cylinder number 5, and if we come around here, here's the point on the distributor that's cylinder 1, and here's the rotor. So right now it would be at 0 degrees of advance, and we're going to go ahead and put a little turn on it so before we fire it up. But we'll pull out the timing light in a second. So that should get us to where we can fire it up and run her off. If you just drop it in at straight up top dead center like I did and rotate it just a hair advanced. So I'll go ahead and hook my vacuum connectors up and get my cap on here and all the wires hooked up, and we'll go ahead and crank it over, and then we'll get a timing light on this baby and get some timing in her. Okay, so here's how we got our timing light set up. We'll get it out of the way. You always want to be careful where you set these when the motor's running, because as you can see I have dropped them on a header before and left them there, and that was only after about 8 seconds or so of laying on it. But anyway, how you want to set up your timing light is you want to stick your sensor here on spark plug wire number 1, and honestly the farther down the wire you go the better, but you really don't want to burn it up, and it's not a huge difference, maybe 1 degree of timing different, so keep that in mind. The higher up if you're way up here by the distributor versus way down by the plug. But then you just hook your positive and negative up to your battery, or if you have an external battery, sometimes that's handy, especially with this old school Ford here that has the timing marks on the opposite side of the battery. Usually the timing marks are on the other side. But what we're going to do is when the motor's running, we're going to pull our trigger here. You can hear our gun. We're going to pull our trigger here, and the light will shoot out of here every time a spark passes that sensor. It's like a trigger wire. So, and then this light will flash, and we'll see on our harmonic balancer what our timing is. So generally what I go for is I want all my timing in pretty early. I have all my timing in by 2800 to 3000 RPM, and I run a conservative 34 degrees of total timing, so I don't get too crazy. I don't want to break anything. But what I like is somewhere around 10 to 12 at idle. A lot of manufacturer specifications for these old cars are around 6 to 8, but 10 to 12 is usually pretty good on anything that has any performance parts at all. Unless you're bone stock, you always want to get that around 10 to 8, and you don't want to have any more than 34 degrees of total timing. So I kind of know how mine's set up here, and I'm running vacuum, so usually you unhook that and then you go ahead and see what your timing's set at without it, but I know that my vacuum canister is 15 degrees of timing, so I'll just subtract 15 mentally and I'll know right where I'm at. But normally you'd want to plug that to your carburetor. But anyway, we'll turn it over here, and don't want to forget, and on these Fords and any other vehicle, while you're watching, if you want to advance your timing, you would turn your distributor clockwise, and if you want to retard your timing, you turn it counterclockwise while it's running. So you want to have your little distributor hold down nut loose. So go ahead and get cranking. Make sure our 5-speed's out of gear. Okay, so we got our timing all set, and we're just going to tighten down this bolt. Now, it's hard to explain while I'm setting the timing there, but what I was doing is I was seeing that on my harmonic balancer, after I subtracted my vacuum canister through, mental math and whatnot, we're coming to about 10 to 12 initial, and I already ran it wide open, so I already knew where it was at before I just made this video, so I had it plugged up for all that, because that's the only way to know, because when you're into the RPM, when you're sitting here not under a load, that vacuum canister is going to be adding timing. So to be sure, I had that all unplugged when I was calculating my total timing, so I came out to, it's pretty responsive. Well, I'm at 33 degrees of total timing, so I think I'll leave it there instead of 34. But my initials set to from 10 to 12, and then I have a stop bushing and some springs in there that I could go into on this MSD, but for simplicity's sake, I think I'll refrain, because you can look that up somewhere else. But anyway, that's pretty much how to set your ignition timing. So there you have it, and you always want to be around 10 to 12 on anything that's mild. You don't want to be locking out your timing, and you always want to run a vacuum canister and have it, ported or manifold vacuum, whatever you want to run. The difference between ported and manifold vacuum is that ported manifold vacuum doesn't pull in vacuum at idle, whereas manifold vacuum does, but they're about the same thing. There's a lot of discussion. Some cars run better on one way, and some cars run better set to the other. That's pretty much the conclusion most people come to, so that's kind of up to you. But anyway, you can kind of get a general overview there of how to drop in a distributor and set your timing. You can always set it by eyeball if you know your timing curve, or set it by ear, that some people do, but I like to use timing lights so I can be right on the money. So anyway, there you have it, how to set ignition timing and install any distributor into a small block Ford or Chevrolet. It's the same process. The distributor is just in the back. So there you have it.